What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Luttie's Look Back, episode 10. My name is Nick Luttie. We've got a lot of football to catch up on in the past weekend of sports. Probably one of the last football-packed shows we'll have, so make sure to enjoy it. And we'll start with the big game from the weekend. Arkansas getting the 35-14 win over Louisiana Tech. What wasn't always pretty. All right, let's just put it how it is. That first quarter was a little shaky. I was worried I might be having to report on the firing of head coach Sam Pittman, but by the end of it, it was clear that's not what was going to happen. Arkansas does get the win, and they become bowl eligible, which we'll get to later. But let's talk about the game specifically first, and that's where we begin with my three big things. We got offense, defense, special teams. It's real organized behind me, as you can see. So very organized. We'll start with offense, and the inconsistencies continue for this Razorback offense. It's something that has plagued the Arkansas offense a lot this season, where it's okay, can they just put together a full four-quarter game? I feel like you maybe seen that against a team like Mississippi State, but you want to see it against Louisiana Tech. Like, you can't put together a full fourth quarter game against Louisiana Tech. You're surely not going to do it against Missouri this upcoming weekend. So that worries me going forward with the next two games of the season, the Mizzou game and then the bowl game that the Razorbacks have. So there's pros and cons to look at this. Obviously, it's not a pro to have an inconsistent offense, but the pro is that they are really good at times, and the con is that they're bad at times. The good parts of it: Rashad Dubinion, Andrew Armstrong, Isaac Teslaw. Those are the three guys that I noticed for this Arkansas offense that were clicking the entire time. They were the consistent part of the Arkansas offense. You might say, hey, Nick, the offense didn't do anything in the first quarter. I think that's mainly given to the blame should be on the offensive line. That's where the blame has been most of this season, is the offensive line. Patrick Kudus didn't play in this one, so he had to not play one game the rest of the season in order to still redshirt, and people kind of knew it was going to be Louisiana Tech. With all due respect to Louisiana Tech, he was going to not play in that game. So Kudus wasn't in the lineup, and that was one of their starting offensive linemen. I think because they moved a few things around there, I'm not a hyperactive, like look at the offensive line the entire game type of person, so I don't know exactly the movements that went on there, but I know there are some changes, so I think it took them a little bit to kind of get that offensive line gelling. Once they did, they dominated the Louisiana Tech defensive line, but early on it was a little scary. It was not looking good early on for that Arkansas offensive line. They started to click, Taylon Green started to click, and then they started to do what the offense should have done the entire game. They only just did it for the last 2.5 quarters of the game, but it worked, and Arkansas got the win. And a big part of they got the win is leading to my next point, is the defense. Once again, they kept Arkansas in it. If the defense hadn't shown up in this game, we're talking about a much different game, especially in the first quarter. Arkansas might have gone down 14-3 like they did against UAB, and it would have been a lot more scary going down 13 or 14-3 than it in this one than would have been against UAB. And I'm glad that didn't happen, because that certainly would have, I think fans were already booing when the offense wasn't, a few fans I should say, some fans were booing when the offense wasn't doing too high. It would have been really bad if the defense would have been struggling, but they didn't. They kept Arkansas, and they faltered down the stretch a little bit, but it was kind of when Louisiana Tech scored some meaningless touchdowns, and also a touchdown that probably should have been called back because of that roughing the passer targeting rule that got picked off. Arkansas should have had the interception there. Didn't get called. I don't need to talk about the refs. They weren't amazing in this game. Doesn't matter. Arkansas got the win. My third point, the biggest issue, special teams. I mean, special teams is an issue for this Razorback team. You've seen it a little bit play into this season, but it was exposed. It was exposed by Louisiana Tech. They had the fake field goal, they had the fake punt, and then Arkansas had the muffed punt. You can't have three big issues by your special teams and expect to win by a good margin. And Arkansas probably would have won by a bigger margin if the special teams wouldn't have hurt them so much. Thankfully, the defense came in clutch when Arkansas needed it to, kind of going back to my last point, but special teams definitely needs to be fixed heading into the Mizzou game and the bowl game. And you know, this team is still a team that can win 7 games, 8 games on the year, which is kind of funny to think about, because there are points throughout this season where you're like, I don't know how good this team is. I don't know how good they are. I'm worried about this Arkansas team. I think you can put a little bit of that worry aside and say, hey, we made a bowl game. We overachieved some of those expectations. The line, or the over-under win-loss was like 4.5. I believe 4.5 or 5 to start the year. Arkansas is at 6 wins. So in my personal opinion, they have overachieved what they were expected to do. Maybe you had higher expectations. I had 6 wins, so I guess they achieved what I thought they were going to do. But that was the win against Louisiana Tech, and this game was honestly, it was about something bigger than just getting the win. It was making a bowl game, which Arkansas did, as I mentioned, and Sam Pittman's job security. And speaking of Sam Pittman, here's what he had to say after the game.
But to get bowl eligible, the locker room was excited, happy to be bowl eligible. 4 of our first 5 years here. It was a lot of fun, and we got Larry out, and the kids had a lot of fun with it. And you know, guys, that's not the goal of our football team. That's one of them, though. There's a lot of Power 4 teams that are not bowl eligible after today and won't get bowl eligible, and some of them have to be in our league. So it is an accomplishment, not our ultimate goal. I've never one time worried about my job. I promise you, not one time. Am I happy that we are bowl eligible? Yes, for everybody in the building and that staff besides me. I've never worried about that. Still don't. I'm going to be fine one way or the other, but I'm going to fight like hell for the University of Arkansas the entire time that I'm the head coach.
You know, I cut it off after that, but there's always some fans that are standing to the side of the press conference area looking into the kind of press conference room, and they give a big applause after that because say what you want about Sam Pittman. I know I say this like every week on this show, but he is respected by most fans, and he's a seemingly lovable guy, in my opinion. I've always, relatively for the most part, been a pro Sam Pittman fan of his, and I think he is deservedly so the coach for Arkansas right now. And you know, I don't know if anybody could honestly be better than Sam Pittman right now. Okay, Deion Sanders, maybe you bring in someone like that can really change the program. That changes things. But as things currently stand right now, Sam Pittman's the guy, and I'm with him. I'm with Sam Pittman, and I do think this team can improve. I think they can improve. They got 2 games left on the year. That's an 8-win season. How can you not be with a coach if he has 8 wins? That's what I think, at least. And then even going into next year, if you have Taylor Green back, another year under Bobby Petrino, I like that. I'm confident in that duo producing more great plays. We've seen good Taylor, we've seen bad Taylor this year. I would expect to see a little better Taylor. That's kind of a bigger picture outlook looking at the rest of the season. But Arkansas gets the win. They are bowl eligible. We'll talk about Missouri a little bit later in the show. But let's look at some other scores throughout our state. Arkansas State, the first one we got to get to. They got the win 28-21 over Louisiana Monroe. It's a seven wins now for Butch Jones' squad. That's the first time since 2019, so bravo to him and what he's been able to do with that Red Wolves program. Offensively, Arkansas State was able to have a really good game. Jalen Rayner only passed for $150, but he threw 3 touchdowns, which is pretty good, and rushed for 42 yards as well. He's been a little on and off this year, but certainly had a good game here. And really what worked for A-State in this one was their running game. Zach Wallace, 130 yards. That was his best game since transferring to Arkansas State from, I think it was UT Martin. So the Benton native certainly had a really good game. Good to see Arkansas State doing well offensively and on the defensive side. Trevion Thomas, he had a fumble recovery and an interception. I know I like to always talk about offense because it's just what makes the highlights, and that's a big part of my job, but the defense needs to be talked about too, and Trevion Thomas has had a good year for Arkansas State, the senior. A fumble recovery and an interception, so that definitely is deserving of talking about on this show. So those are my thoughts from the Red Wolves win. Let's hear from the head coach, Butch Jones, after the game.
You know, I think what you saw out there today is what we refer to as team supporting team, and what I mean by that is complementary football. We knew that we had to be 3 for 3 in all 3 phases, and we're finding ways to win football games. And sometimes we're making it more challenging than what it should be. But, you know, if you really look at the course throughout the game, each phase stepped up in critical moments. we were able to take the football away. We were able to create some negative yardage plays. That's a good football team that we played. That's a quality win versus a quality opponent. And again, just really, really proud of our players, the resolve, the resiliency.
So nice win there for Arkansas State. On the flip side, UCA again falls their fourth in a row, 39-14 to Tarleton State. It's really been a disappointing way to end the season for what was expected to be a really promising season, a season that was set up by them being in the top 10 at one point in the FCS and being a team that was expected to make the FCS playoffs in the bracket that just came out yesterday. That's disappointing, but injuries really plagued them down the stretch. These last 5 games, they've been without a lot of their key players. Shonderick Powell did play in this game, but I still don't think he's 100%. I think if he's 100%, he's going 200 yards a game. That's how good this player is. And he had 100 yards. It was mainly because of a breakout 60 or 70 yard touchdown that helped him get there. But it's sad to see UCA was such a good team earlier on in the season, and they just couldn't close it out. And granted, their last 2 or 3 games was with their third-string quarterback, and Caleb Koger. It was his second ever start in this game, threw 2 interceptions. He had a really good game last week, and UCA didn't get the win, but he had a good game. And this one, you saw a little bit more of what you would expect out of a guy who's hasn't played much college football and a redshirt freshman. So tough for Koger, but I still think this UCA program is in good hands. They had a lot of really talented seniors that will be leaving the program and that will be missed. But nonetheless, I think the future is bright because they do have some good offensive weapons, especially at wide receiver. That's a little bit of offense and some defensive weapons that played good in this game. Special teams, though, is where they struggled, kind of like the Razorbacks, but it killed them. In the fourth quarter, there were back-to-back kickoffs where the Bears turned it over. One time, the ball got kicked really high in the air, and something you never want to do when you're returning the kick is let the ball hit the ground. The ball hits the ground and just pops right up. Tarleton State hops on it, and then they get a field goal on a few plays later. Again, the UCA defense held their own, but they do get a field goal, and that cushioned the lead a little bit more for Tarleton State in the fourth quarter. And then right after that, UCA fumbles on the kickoff return, and so that just pegged them down a few levels to where they weren't able to recover from that, is what I get the feel. And so they lost this game. So tough one for UCA. They finished their season at 6-6. Another team that wrapped up their season, UAPB, not much better for the Golden Lions. They lost 31-23 to Texas Southern. They put up a good fight. They were leading at halftime in this one, but weren't able to get the win. Makai Hagan's 94 yards passing interception. Curry had 94 rushing yards. He played okay. The defense has really been the problem this year for UAPB, because if you look at the stats as far as in their conference, UAPB offense is 6th or 7th in total offense in their conference. On the other hand, their defense is 2nd or 3rd to last in total defense, especially run defense has always something I've noticed has seemed to be a problem this year. Even you look at the first game they played against the Razorbacks. The Razorbacks dominated them, as they should have in all facets of the game, but run defense was certainly an issue for the Golden Lions, and that's been an issue all season long. They finished the year 3-9. One more thing I got to mention about this game, there was a 75-yard pick six by a 300-pound defensive lineman. How awesome is that? I wish I could show you the video, but because of some regulations with streaming and showing you the video, I can't. But it was an incredible play, and I'll make sure I pronounce this guy's name correct. I could be wrong because his name probably doesn't get called much because he's a defensive lineman. It's probably his first touchdown ever. Abdul Osholake. That's my best bet as how his name is pronounced. But well done to that guy. A big-time pick six. Again, UAPB didn't get the win, but that was a really cool play by that guy right there. So tough loss for UAPB. Again, they finished the year at 3-9. Some more positive. Let's look at some GAC scores from around the nation in the playoffs right now. Harding gets the win in the first round of the playoffs, like they should have. I should have put Pittsburgh State's ranking up there. I think they're in the teens. I could be wrong. So it was definitely a really good win for the Bison. Of course, they ran the ball really well. Pitt State was only giving up 90-yard rushing a game, and then, of course, the Bison with their flex bone offense just dominated. 48-3, the win there. On the flip side, man, a tough loss for OBU in overtime against Central Oklahoma. Not what you want to see there. A hard-fought game, really. Give credit to OBU for fighting. It was a back-and-forth game, a stressful game. I'd imagine if you're a fan, I was only able to watch the last bit of it in overtime, but you hate to see that. You know, it's an overtime heartbreaker, and it's certainly a tough one for the Tigers. The Tigers that have had certainly some ups and downs to their season, but their season ends with a loss in round one, 38-31 over Central Oklahoma. Those are your GAC scores for Division II. Let's move on now to some high school football. All right, it's bracket prediction time. If you watched my past few videos, you know I'm not the best at picking the games. I think I've lost like 1 or 2 games already in the Class 7A and 6A. I did both of those last week. It's time for the Class 5A. I get a little bit of an easier pick here because it's just the Final Four and not every single game, which would have been tough for me. I don't know if I would have picked Lakeside over Robinson, so well done to Garen Rockwell and his squad there, pulling off the upset over the Senators. That was a bit of a crazy game. Farmington got the win over Camden Fairview in the quarterfinals. Parkview rolling past Maumelle, and Valley View just barely getting past Morrilton. That was a close game. I think that was maybe the one that went to overtime. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I should know, but I'm trying to follow a lot of games at one time. But this is our semifinal matchup: Valley View and Little Rock Parkview, Lakeside and Farmington. For my championship matchup, I'm going to tell it to you and then I'm going to explain it to you. So hear me out before you argue about what my picks are right here. Little Rock Parkview, I've got them advancing, and Lakeside, I've got them upsetting Farmington. Another upset for the Rams to advance to our championship game, Parkview and Lakeside. First, let me talk about Valley View. They're a really good team out of Northeast. This will be a game that is at Blazer Stadium between Parkview and Valley View. Valley View hasn't lost a game this entire season. They're led by their quarterback, senior Drew Gartman. He's had 1,500 plus passing yards, 14 passing touchdowns. If he's good passing, he's almost better rushing the ball. 1,200 plus rushing yards, or almost 1,200 yards, I should say, and 22 rushing touchdowns. Gartman is the player to watch out for this Blazer squad, and they're really good, but they haven't played a team like Little Rock Parkview, and not many are going to in the Class 5A. Parkview just too good for the Blazer team. They'll advance, and I know they're a little shaky at the end of the regular season, but these 2 games against Maumelle and Wynn have been absolutely dominated. They're playing their best football right now in the playoffs. Their only loss this year has been to Bryant, so I like them advancing to the championship game. We'll talk about the championship in a second. Lakeside and Farmington. Farmington, give all the credit you want to head coach Tommy Tice. He's probably could be the coach of the year in the entire state, heck, even in the entire region. What he's done with the Cardinals program has been really impressive, and they're really good this year. They're the 1 seed, but Lakeside, I don't know if many expected Lakeside to be here. To be honest, I don't know if I did, but they're here, and I think they're going to use that momentum after that Robinson win to carry them into the championship game. I like their 3-headed monster of Wally Walcott and Grady Oman and Ryan Ballard. Walcott has over 2,000 passing yards. Oman has over 2,000 rushing yards. When those two are clicking, and shout out to their offensive line. To be honest, I don't know a single person on the offensive line. I can't name you a name on their offensive line for this Rams team, but because their offense has been clicking so well, and because Wally Walcott has been doing his thing and Oman has been doing his thing, I'd imagine that their offensive line is pretty good. And I don't know if I mentioned Ryan Ballard as well. He's a very good receiver, had an amazing game. Probably could have been the sweetest play if we were still doing sweetest plays. We don't in the playoffs. Probably could have had a sweetest play against Robinson, but he is a special player. I like the Rams over the Cardinals. Now we got our championship game. Parkview, Lakeside. Lakeside has already pulled off 2 upsets in a row. Can they do it again in the championship against a really good Parkview team? I don't think so. I think Little Rock Parkview gets to win. They're the team that has been expected to win the Class 5A all season long. Maybe they weren't as good as they were last year when they beat Bryant. They lost to Bryant this year, but the Hornets are probably better than they were last year as well. Little Rock Parkview just has too many weapons on their team. Monterio Elson, the guy they call Money, a Division I talent right there. Cam Settles, the running back that's committed to play for the Razorbacks. And shout out to Emmanuel Bunting. Doesn't get talked about enough. The quarterback has really stepped up for this Parkview team when Quentin Murphy has been unable to go this season or has not done as well as they thought he would. Bunting has stepped in and has quarterbacked that offense to a lot of wins and to success, especially in the playoffs. I think they'll have success against Valley View. I think they'll have a lot of success against Lakeside. This Parkview team is just too good, and I think they'll repeat as state champions in this one. That is my Class 5A prediction. Let's look at some other scores around the high school area from this past Friday night. Pulaski Academy getting the win over Fayetteville, 39-32. How about the win for PA? A bit of a shock there. Not many expected the Bruins to do that. Congrats to Coach Anthony Lucas on getting the win there. Rogers hanging in with Conway, but losing to the Wampus Cats. Wampus Cats advanced to the semifinals with a win over Rogers, 56-49. Benton easily taking down Lake Hamilton, 57-14. Maumelle, tough for them. They had a really good season, but obviously losing to what I think will be the Class 5A state champs in Parkview. Top right corner of your screen. Of course, we talked about the upset. Lakeside taking out Robinson, 21-17. A controversial interception there at the end by the Rams, but no doubt they are worthy of winning that game and earning that win. Mills continues to dominate. An undefeated season is staying alive as they enter into, I think, the 4A. I think they're the 4A. I think that is the quarterfinals for the Comets. They get a win 42-10 over Clinton. Fordyce with the win 46-8 over Jessieville. And then Junction City. This was probably the most shocking upset victory of maybe the season. I don't know. Probably just the playoffs so far. Carlisle was the team to beat, was previously undefeated, was so good in the Class 2A, but they lose to Junction City 43-14, a big-time upset win. That is some high school action. Let's look at NFL from yesterday. Dallas Cowboys, all right. Standing round of applause for the Cowboys. I don't know how they did it. Well, it helped out when they had a 99-yard punt return. I think it was kickoff return touchdown for the Cowboys. They go on to win 34-26 over the Commanders. Chiefs do their thing because that's just what they always do in close games. They get the win 30-27 on a game-winning field goal over the Panthers. How about the Titans? Cowboys, Chiefs, and Titans win. Oh, it's a good day to be a fan in our area of NFL teams. They get the win over the Texans 32-27, and then the Lions over the Colts. The Lions continue to roll. Shout out to Jacob Bates, who made a nice field goal for them. That is a look at our NFL scores from yesterday. All right, wrapping up our show now with some non-football Razorback sports from the weekend. Men's basketball on a Friday night taking down Little Rock 79-67. Razorbacks were up by a lot in this game in the first half. They kind of let the Trojans crawl back into this game, but no doubt a good win for the Razorbacks again against the Trojans team that's kind of like Arkansas right now, a little bit banged up without KK Robinson, without Williamson playing this game for them. But speaking of injuries, Arkansas really needs to have Jonas Adu and Trevin Brazil. Those are the two big men, the two forwards that Arkansas has been without for a little bit. They need to have both of them back, especially for the Illinois game coming up on Thursday. They need to have them back and healthy and ready to go, and they actually have to play a Power 4 school like the Fighting Illini. But we'll keep an eye on Razorback men's basketball. Also over the weekend, Arkansas soccer. They advanced to the Sweet 16, and they played in the Sweet 16 game yesterday, but they fell in penalty kicks. A heartbreaker to Stanford. Played a really good game. Bella Field was the one who scored the lone goal for the Razorbacks. It was tied 1-1 at the end of regulation, went to overtime, then double overtime. It was the most Arkansas soccer game I've watched all season long. I watched the first half, and then overtime, double overtime, and then penalty kicks when the Arkansas lost it, and a bit of a heartbreaker there. But still, no doubt, a really good, impressive season for the Arkansas soccer team. They were the #1 team in the country at one point, so you maybe wanted them to have a better season than losing in the Sweet 16. I get that, but you got to think about where this program has been through and where they've come to this point forward, which is it's really impressive what Colby Hale has been able to do in the last decade there up on the hill. So great job to Arkansas soccer no matter the loss. Also good Arkansas cross country, the men placing 3rd in the nation in the NCAA cross country championship over the weekend. It was their best finish since 2005. So good that cross country is also doing well. We're going to finish up my show how we always do with my Lutties look ahead for Arkansas football. All right, so next up for the Razorbacks, obviously they will go to a bowl game in December, but this one 2 days after Thanksgiving, Saturday at 2:30 on the SEC Network, facing off against Missouri, a good Missouri team, but a team that hasn't played quite the same schedule that Arkansas has played this year. That will be an exciting one on SEC Network. Make sure you tune in to watch that game, and then tune in afterwards, of course, right here to THV 11 to watch the Hog Zone show. That will be at 10:10. That'll be our final Hog Zone of the season. So hopefully it'll be a one with a lot of positive energy heading into bowl season for the Razorbacks. That's going to do it for Luttie's Look Back episode 10. It was a lot of fun, broke down a lot of sports, a lot of college football and high school football, and so much more. We'll have another exciting show next week, probably a little bit more touching on basketball. But thanks so much for watching episode 10 of Luttie's Look Back.